In the case of Reverend Warnock's opponent, there is very little evidence that he has taken any interest, bothered to learn anything about, or displayed any kind of inclination towards public service or volunteer work or helping people in any way. At least we don't really know about it. And that does make you suspect. Seems to me he's a celebrity who wants to be a politician.
Well, he was a politician who never showed up and voted president more often than not when he was in the state legislature. Here now is Republican Senate candidate from Georgia, Herschel Walker, is with us. You know, I just might remember you might have been on the president's physical fitness program. You were on that board, if I'm not mistaken. And if I'm not mistaken, for how many years have you been running camps, fitness camps for children? And you might want to talk a little bit about your other volunteering work and other things you've done that apparently Barack Obama knows nothing about.
Well, he don't care to know about it because right now they will say and do anything to win this seat, but they're not going to win it from me. This seat is too important, and I want the Georgia people to know that right now they're doing whatever they can, and they got to go through me to win that seat. So they're trying to put me down, but they're not going to win. And they didn't talk about the crime, did they? Right now, crime is up. They didn't talk about this inflation. Inflation is up. This border is wide open. They didn't talk about that. And the reason why is because of Senator Warnock. Senator Warnock was a deciding factor in many of these things. He even voted to put men and women's sports. And they don't want to talk about that. Well, they're going to have to come through me because they're coming for me right now. They're coming for you tomorrow. But they're not going to get to you because they got to go through me first. And I'm going to fight for this seat because having Senator Warnock is not right.
Well, one thing they have in common is they both praise the Reverend Jeremiah Wright. I got a picture of Obama and Louis Farrakhan. Warnock has praised Farrakhan, and in Warnock's case, I don't even think Obama did this, but Warnock praised Fidel Castro. So they seem to have an inclination to like pretty extreme people.
Well, they have an extreme for a lot of things. You see what he said about abortion. He believes that a baby that survives an abortion, he voted to deny that baby medical care. How extreme is that? But yet they want to talk about me, and I said, come for me if you like. I'm going to fight for this seat because this seat is too important to have someone like a Marxist like Senator Warnock representing the great people of Georgia, because I am Georgia born, Georgia bred, and when I die, I'll be Georgia dead. I'm not going to let them continue to put the Georgia people down through their racist, what things they say about the Georgia people is not true, and I want people to get out and vote. Let's not send someone like Senator Warnock back to Washington to represent us because he only represents one side. That's going to be the black side. I represent everybody, black, white, yellow, green, everyone that's a Georgia citizen. You're my family, and I'm not going to let Reverend Warnock and I'm not going to let ex-President Obama affect my family or hurt my family.
America must repent for its whiteness. You cannot serve God and the military. Praise the Nation of Islam, compared police officers to thugs and gangsters. Is that the guy you're running against?
Well, that's the guy I'm running against. Guy that says all those things. He hide behind these sealed court records. He hide behind so many things. He's a hypocrite. I called him out, and everyone should have known the adult in the room during the debate was Herschel Walker, because I took him to school when he's supposed to have taken me to school. He was supposed to be the one that was going to teach me, but I taught him. He wouldn't even answer questions anymore. I hope people saw that he was not the person he claimed to be. He was that wolf in sheep's clothing that I've been talking about, and he don't represent Georgia. And I showed it. He represents Joe Biden. He's been doing it the whole time. And to have President Obama to come here when he told us to vote for President Biden, are you serious? And you see where we're at today? In less than 2 years, this is what we got. Do you think we can take 6 more years of this? And we can't. We can't take 6 more years of this because they would destroy this country. So that's why I encourage everyone to go to teamherschel.com. And I have to say that, Sean, because we got to stop these people. I cannot believe that they won't talk about the crime. They won't talk about this open border. They won't talk about this inflation. They won't talk about men and women's sports. They won't talk about things people out in the streets are talking about. People are worried about. They want to try to smear me. Well, do what you want with me, because sticks and stone may break my bone, but words are never going to hurt me. I'm going to fight for this seat because it's too important for them to be sitting in it.
And clearly Chuck Schumer has you on his mind in that hot mic moment. I think they were talking about you, Herschel. Anyway, the important race. Republicans, that would be a major pickup for them. Herschel Walker, thank you for being with us. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.